leadership books. In just moments, our host, Michael Stickler, will be joining us with a very special guest. Before we get started, I would like to introduce you to Michael. He's a 4-time best-selling author, philanthropist, publisher, and highly sought-after conference speaker. His passion is to see life-changing books find their audience. Books that will change your life, change your business, and change your soul. And he specializes in helping authors and business owners achieve publishing success. Won't you please welcome Michael Stickler?
Well, thank you for the great introduction. I'm Mike Stickler. I'm the publisher with Leadership Books, and today we have a very special guest, Dave Jennings. Now, Dave is a leadership and organizational change consultant. He has guided leaders from across the globe to navigate what he calls the pit of success for themselves and for their teams, even for their company. And he has worked with such organizations like Salesforce and Microsoft, Oracle, Exxon, Mobil, Alaska Airlines, and even the FBI. He has been a featured speaker at leadership conferences in 22 countries. He's an author of Catapulted, How Great Leaders Succeed Beyond Their Experience, and he has articles and commentary that have been relied upon in the Washington Post and Forbes, The Street, and many other significant journals. He's earned his Ph.D. in researching change resilience. And he's written an amazing book, which I found out just now that he has just now today reached the Wall Street Journal's I just lost what I was saying. The Wall Street Journal's top books and bestsellers list. And so we're really excited to have Dave Jennings. Dave, welcome to the Compendium Podcast.
Great to be with you today, Michael.
So Dave, I want to jump right in to what you're all about and what's your passion, what's your heart. And so the book, Pit of Success, is not just a book or a title of a book, it's actually a concept. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The idea of the Pit of Success is that leaders are not in their role because they have all the answers. Leaders are in their position because they have what it takes to figure out answers. As I've interviewed leaders at Fortune 500s, mid-sized companies, doctors, politicians, what we find is that there's a very consistent trend where leaders are placed in positions where they do not know what they're doing. All right. In fact, that is the norm. And when they get in these positions, they often wonder, what do I do? Am I enough? Do I really have what it takes to be here? And what we have found is that you're not in your position because you have all the answers. You're there because you can figure it out. And what the Pit of Success is about is how you figure that out. So first of all, let me give you the idea of the Pit of Success itself. When you and I have a challenge, we have that challenge because we have the ability to go to somewhere higher and to gain a new level of ability. Everything you want in life has a pit in front of it. If you want to be better at something, you're going to have to go into a space that is dark, that you won't have answers in, a place where you wish you could rely on previous skills, but you can't. So we call that the Pit of Success. And we choose these words very, very intentionally. It's a pit because it is dark, as I mentioned, but it's a pit of success because if you're willing to walk through that darkness, if you're willing to not have answers, you can learn anything. And that's what the book really brings out, is your ability to rewire, learn, and figure out whatever it is you need to figure out. So in a nutshell, that's the big idea of the book. What you need is learnable, and your challenges and doubts, others are sharing the same kind of experiences.
When you talk about kind of a dark place, what do you mean by that?
So we get confused. So if right now, in this very moment, you were asked to, rather than run a podcast, maybe it's a TV show, and I don't know your background enough to know if you've run TV shows, but you'd be sitting there and you'd be like, hey, I'm good with people. I've run things, I've produced, but now you're in a new context. And running a TV show, although interviews would be similar, there would be some differences. And so when you're in that space of going, wow, it's similar but different, you wonder, why aren't you better faster? Why wasn't that first interview as good as all these other ones I've done? And so you're just full of doubt, and you have this space where you wonder, maybe I ought to just go back and do what I did before, because I was good over there. And now I am not that good, amazing person that I was before. Decisions take longer. You're often filled with the sense of should. I should be better. I should be better faster. What's the matter with me? They all look like they're really good. They're getting it. And so the darkness is not having answers and wishing and believing you should have answers. And what we want people to know, and what we've discovered through all our interviews and such, is that this is common. This is something I see with executives. It's something I see with folks in new leadership positions and folks in any kind of position at all. And as I mentioned earlier, we talk with surgeons, we've talked with politicians. It is a common experience.
So is that how you discovered this problem, is in your consulting, that in essence, you're finding leaders who are going, boy, I walked into this and I thought I had an idea, but I had no clue what I've been doing or what I was looking to do?
Yeah, it's a mix. One, I started my research in change resilience. So I was working on a Ph.D. in change resilience, right, and looking at how people go through change. So I was looking at, people that are taken hostage, people that are Olympic athletes, leaders, whatever it is. I was looking at all these people, how they go through change. And so then after finishing that research, we went out and started working with leaders, interviewing them, and seeing that this pattern of resilience is shared across the globe. And when people understand it, a burden is lightened. So it evolved. One, did a bunch of research first, and two, as we started interacting with executives around the world, it just confirmed the reality of this. And so that's how it evolved.
So when you talk about this dark place, it's kind of a combination, if I understand, it's kind of a combination of lack of experience, maybe education, maybe it's an unrealized expectation that presented itself, or even thinking that it's in essence a blind spot. They can't see what they couldn't see.
All of those could apply, and it really can depend on the type of pit. So like you could have someone who is extremely educated. In fact, I've worked with some medical doctors who are now having to be the medical manager of the organization. Okay. Are they brilliant? Yes. Are they experienced? Yes. Do they know how to lead an organization? No. And so in spite of education in one area, it doesn't make them automatically good in another. And in spite of education, it doesn't mean you're not going to have doubts. So I have, in fact, just this summer, I was working with an now executive who moved out of being a medical doctor, now being more of a scientist, and him describing that, wow, I am so glad you told me about the pit, because here I am in my 60s. I've been a professional. I've been used to being the one who knows. And now I'm having to rediscover, who I am and how do I do that? So ability, you may have the ability, but you don't yet have the experience. What I like to think about is routines. We don't yet have the routines to solve these problems. And that's what makes them so challenging, is you can't just rely on what you've done before. Everything is a relearning or a new learning in your brain. And that takes effort. And we don't know. We don't know how to do it. And that's okay. It's learnable. Your brain can rewire. We get a lot into how the brain rewires. That, to me, that's just really exciting research. And we show that it doesn't matter, your experience, your education, your age, you can rewire your brain. And that's what we want people to know.
So what do you say to somebody that says, well, if they just gave me a book, or if they just gave me a manual, I'm thinking of the the surgeon who's now the medical director, if they just had given him a manual, is that really going to help?
So it can help. It's absolutely part of it. In the learning profession, particularly for organizations, we tend to think about development in three ways. We tend to think about the education side, which is about 10% of your development. We then think about the associate interaction, watching others who are in the role. That's about 20% of your development. And it is estimated that around 70% of your development is actually by getting in there, figuring it out, solving problems you've never solved before. Your education is a base, and you absolutely want some, new foundations as you're learning a new thing. But the bottom line is, until I jump into the pit and face that challenge, I'm not going to figure it out.
Right. So in your book, what are some of the aha moments? What are the pieces that are going to really help the reader understand that they're in the pit or about to enter the pit, and what are they going to get through? What are the tools you've given them to help them get through it?
So I think the first one is the mindset. When people discover that their doubts, their frustrations, they're wondering if they're enough is shared around the world, there's this, oh, you mean I'm okay. In fact, I see that everywhere. It doesn't matter the culture.
Sure.
And they just go, you mean all these things are just part of it? Yes, it is. So I think that is the first aha, is you're normal, you're lost and confused. Yep, you're in the right place. So that's a big one.
Right.
Number two, I think a big aha becomes just how much your brain can rewire. We go over different studies in there that show that whether you're 80 years old or 10 years old, your brain can rewire. In fact, if I could pick on our share of the one on the 80-year-olds, in one of the studies, they looked at 80, 90-year-olds, all right? And they found that these folks, after just 30 hours of training, could improve certain communication abilities, a full standard deviation, all right? And which means they went from, kind of doing it to really doing it in the average, or in the average and doing it well. And a lot of people like to say, hey, I'm older, so I don't know how to do this. And the fact is, the research does not agree with you. It does. You do have patterns as you get older that you get really attached to,
Sure.
But there is nothing to say that with focus and repetition, you cannot rewire. And that is the discovery that a lot of people walk away with is, okay, I really can do this. This is not a rah, 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 you can do it. This is the science that says your brain, when you focus and repeat, it will rewire. It's not a doubt. There's just no doubt there about that. So there's a couple ahas. Another aha to me is that it's okay to be between, in that we look at betweenness as, or the opposite of betweenness. You're used to being good, and now you've got to be good at something else. When you're in this between space, there can be a lot of self-judgment. But when you define the between space as a normal, logical place to be, it becomes really healthy. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not supposed to know. I'm here to figure this out. I'm not supposed to have answers. And that's one thing we really like pushing as we teach people, either coaching or training or whatever, that you're going to figure this out. Your brain will rewire. Yeah, you're between right now, but so what? You don't get a buy because you were smart at something else. A lot of us, in fact, we want to, because we're good somewhere else, I should just be able to skip this and I should be better by now. No, you've got to pay the price to be good. And that just takes time. You will figure it out. The research is behind you. You have what it takes to figure it out. So those are a few of the ahas. Many more, but those are a few.
And what did you find outside of the book or outside of your consulting? What was kind of a surprise in this process, or even, may I say, what was the pit in your process of writing this book?
So, first of all, I often joke about the learning curve, which is what a pit of success is that I joke that I hate the learning curve because one, I would argue I understand it probably better than most people. I've spent way a lot of years thinking about it, but when I'm in it, I'm lost and confused too. Just because I know it doesn't mean I can just get away from all those feelings. I know what to do with it, and I'm not going to languish there. But, and so in writing the book, I had that. And what I found in writing the book is I had to write a bad chapter to write a good chapter.
Sure.
Repeatedly, and you're an author, you know that. You write a chapter, you know it's wonderful. You go to bed, you wake up the next day, it's not really that wonderful. And then you put it out to colleagues. And that to me was the big thing too. I just kept on putting it out to other authors, to clients. And I got all kinds of the best negative feedback I could get. Like one of my colleagues, he said, "Oh, this is really good, Professor Jennings." And his thought was, this is written like, you're writing a textbook. I got, okay, got to start that over. Right. Another, I put it out to a New York Times bestselling author, and he's like, "Wonderful examples. I have no idea who the audience is for this." And so I just had, I was lost. And so what I walked away with in all of this is I have to write a bad chapter to write a good chapter. And if I'm willing to write a bad chapter, I can make it good. If I avoid that fact that I'm going to be bad for a while, I'll never write a chapter. If I'm waiting to write the perfect chapter, it's not going to happen. And so I would argue, like, I probably wrote every chapter at least 4 or 5 chapters per chapter. And yeah, so that is you got to write a bad chapter. And to me, the implications to life are, if something's worth doing, you're going to do it poorly at first.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out. And that to me is the joy, is that I'm not supposed to be amazing at first. I have the right to learn this. I have the right to figure it out. And I have a brain that can rewire. So I have no doubt that what I need is learnable. No doubt whatsoever.
Those are amazing inputs. I'll tell you, I really so agree. I've written 20 books, and I look back, 19 books, and I look back at the first few books I wrote, and I'm kind of embarrassed by them. And not that they weren't worth publishing, but in my same sense, I've just gotten to be a better writer and a better writer. And I never set out to be a good writer. I'm from the belief system that, you can do anything. It just depends on how much time, effort, energy, experience you want to put into it. I could be a neurosurgeon, but at 61 years old, I don't want to go through the education and try to figure it out. By the time I do, my work life is over. And
right.
so,
And I'm sorry. I just want to push on that. That's really one of the conclusions we have from the brain research is it's not a question about, are you capable?
right.
It's a question of, do you want to repeat some things enough till your brain rewires?
Right.
That's the big question. And a lot of us have to admit that, yeah, I've always said I want to play the piano, but I don't want to practice the piano, and be okay with that. All right.
That's so good. Yeah. I was talking to my friend the other day about new hobbies, and I was asked, have you ever, gone skydiving? And I said, when I was younger, I was actually kind of interested in it, but right now I don't want to learn a whole new hobby. I have enough hobbies in my life that I enjoy that I don't want to go out and try to learn a whole new hobby. And in the same sense, we have to measure, is it worth the time, the effort, and as you put it, the repetitiveness to get to where you want to go. And in business, it often is. In other things, we have to really consider whether we want to get there or not. Those are such great inputs. I really appreciate, Dave, what you're sharing with us. Tell us a little bit about what you do. What's your passion, your heartbeat? How does your organization help other corporations and groups that are trying to overcome their pits?
So one, you could probably tell my passion is the pit of success. And I have such a thrill when I have people tell me how their burdens have been lightened because of this. And I hear from all levels. So one, my passion is seeing people get that experience. The way we help that experience is, one, we provide training, either virtually or in person. We provide coaching. We do various retreats and, of course, keynotes that help them. And so those are our main delivery methods. And again, for me, it is seeing the burden lifted, and also, like, in fact, a lot of people will read it themselves, or they've been through a program, and then they'll say, I shared it with my child, with my spouse, with whoever, and they're like, and it made such a difference. And I'll be honest, that for me is where it's at, is just hearing that people's burdens have been lightened and they now know that what they need is within their reach and they can figure it out. That's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And I noticed that you have an interest in Habitat for Humanity. Tell us about that.
So love making, everybody deserves a place to stay, and being able to donate to them and help them grow and help people get into that. And also the publisher, Morgan James, is very big partner in that. So would encourage everybody to think about, if it's not Habitat, where can they give to lighten the burdens of others?
Yeah, that's great. Great. Anything else you'd like to share today?
So, as you think about a pit of success, I realize that some pits in life you choose. You choose to go to college, maybe you choose a new job, choose to be a manager, but other pits are imposed on us. There are health issues. There are unfair issues of people's behaviors towards us. There are accidents that happen. And the thing is, whether a pit is chosen or imposed, you can still use it. And it doesn't mean it's fair always, all right? But you can use whatever is in front of you and say, all right, I wanted this or didn't want it, but how can I now focus on what I need to focus on and get better? So even though what came to you may not have been what you wanted, don't miss out on using it. And this is not to be a Pollyanna and just say, well, everything just happens, for a reason. And it's to say, what's the most pragmatic thing I can do? I can use what I've been given. I can focus on, my bigger purpose and jump into this pit, learn the skills I need to learn, and become that new me. So it's a real way of facing all challenges. And in this time where people are facing struggles with mental health, job challenges, to realize that the pits can be your ally. They don't have to be your enemy, and to use them. They're there, and your future depends on your willingness to be temporarily incompetent. If you're willing to be temporarily incompetent, you can achieve anything.
That is a great end. To be temporarily incompetent, boy. Well, Dave Jennings, I really appreciate you joining us here on the Compendium Podcast. You have some great ideas and some great concepts, and I know our readers are going to just be thrilled. You want to know more about Dave's book or how to get in contact with Dave, just click on the link below, right down there, and we'll be happy to get you in contact with him. And until the next podcast, we just want to thank all of you for viewing, and God bless you in this wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us for today's broadcast. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And be sure to visit us online at leadershipbooks.store. There you'll find the works of some of the finest thought leaders today. And be sure to tune in here each week to gain even deeper insights from one of those leaders on the Compendium Podcast.